We all have a unique view of the world we are in, how you overcome your challenges or attain your goals. Every experience in life has the potential to inspire, influence, and impact those around us. Welcome to the 3i Stories Podcast by Better Version of You. Hello once again, friends, and welcome to the next episode of the 3i Stories Podcast by Better Version of You. Once again, I am so excited to have another wonderful guest with us, someone who lives out of Wellington, someone who is just passionate about women empowerment, someone who's been working in the public sector for over 26 years, someone who's a very committed family person. So let's get right in it. Let's welcome our guest, Kashmir Kaur. Kashmir, how are you doing today?
I am good, Pritesh. Thank you. Thank you to Better Version of You, and thank you to you for allowing me to share my journey through the 3i podcast.
Wonderful. And I'm so excited for this episode, Kashmir. Just looking at our notes, I have seen you have achieved so much. You have had an amazing outward attitude in life. Could you tell us a little bit about how things actually started for you from the very beginning?
Yes, I was born in Fiji, in Vanuatu, and in Vanuatu there's a place called Bocalevu. That was my first home, and I was born to a philanthropist father who was also a businessman, and a very grounded mother who had never been to school, but if she had, she would have been, I say to everyone, she would have been a lawyer today, because she's very, very diplomatic and very knowledgeable in her own sense. So I was born to these amazing parents, raised in a very traditionalist, in a very conservative manner, whereby girls were allowed only certain things. And growing up, I was quite intelligent in school, and that made me push my limits through to finishing college and wanting to do university. And obviously, being brought up in a very traditionalist way, that was something that didn't cross my parents' mind, that we will have to let Kashmir go and study in a university. And back then, early 1990s, it was a big thing to let your daughter leave your town, leave home. And I was also kind of brought to think that as soon as I turn 16, I will be getting married. And that kind of sat at the back of my mind, thinking, oh my God, no matter how hard I study, no matter how many aspirations I have of becoming someone one day, a financially independent woman, I always had that at the back of my mind. What if I'm forced to get married at the age of 16, just like my 3 older sisters? And I had a younger sister who was looking up to me. So I had this big thing sitting on my shoulders going, if I don't do it, I'm not breaking that glass ceiling for the others. It's my younger sister, it's my nieces in the family who might have to go through the same thing. And so I absolutely loved school, and I absolutely loved taking part in a lot of things that I was allowed to do. But obviously there were things that I also wasn't allowed to do that shaped me who I am today. Things like I would see my brothers and his friends riding a bicycle, but I wasn't allowed to ride a bicycle because I was a girl, right? I would see my brothers and his friends learning how to drive, swimming, going out to picnics with friends and all of that. But I was allowed a lot of other things that I could do, reading books, as many as I wanted, crochet, gardening, cooking, all of these other things. So a lot of the fun that my brothers and my brothers' friends were having, we would just watch from behind the curtains. And
Wow.
And imagine a life where we could actually go out and do those things, because although I was born in Bocalevu, raised in Bocalevu until the age of 10 maybe, we moved to Labasa town, which is quite an urbanized area. And so being raised in an urbanized area, and still not being able to do the things that your neighbors were doing was kind of pulling me back a little bit. And I started off asking a lot of questions. Why not this? Why this? And my mom used to get really tired of answering all my questions, but those questions would never hit my dad because we were so scared of him. He was a gentle giant. He was very protective, very loving, very kind. But there was this thing about the way he raised his children. There was this huge respect. We wouldn't even get in front of him to talk to him. There was no meeting of the eyes when talking to him. So that's how I grew up, and that kind of shaped the way I wanted my life to be. Not like my three sisters who were really happy at that time, but were also not financially independent at that time. They were strong women in the sense that they were raising the family despite the adversities, of getting married at that young age. I was very, very inspired by the books that I was reading at that, growing up. And those books had some very strong independent women. I was really into reading. I was very inspired by my own mother, Amma, who would always tell me to study harder, even though she knew that, I might be forced to get married at the age of 16. She said, just keep studying harder. You don't know what will happen. I want you to get out of here. Right. And she knew that there's a big ceiling there that might not, but she kept saying, you don't want to end up like your older sisters. So keep studying harder, getting those good grades. And so when I came to the age of wanting to go to university, this is after my Form 7, year 13, I said to my dad, I want to go into university. And he's like, okay. And then because he was the manager of Guru Nanak Khalsa Primary and Secondary School, he had some insights into teacher shortages at the school. And he said, are you sure you want to go to university? How about you start teaching? We've got teacher shortages in our own school. How about you start teaching as a grant-in-aid teacher? And I was like, yeah, okay, I can do that for 1 year, and that might get my dad to let me go. So I started teaching, and at the same time, I took some papers through university through correspondence, did that, and still there was no sign of my dad letting me go. And so I used the best weapon I could. And that was my Aji, my grandmother, who I knew would be able to convince my dad. So I said to my Aji, do you want me to end up like my older three sisters? I won't be happy. I've got all these aspirations. I want to get out of here. I want to study further. I want a degree. So my Aji thought about it carefully. She came home one day and she sat my dad down and said, why aren't you letting her go? What will you do if you see your daughter unhappy, married, and she's got all this potential? And my dad was like, okay. And he called me into the lounge and he said, where do you want to go? What do you want to see? And I'm like, I've already done 3 university papers through correspondence while doing the grant-in-aid teaching at Guru Nanak Secondary School. And I said, I'll just pursue teaching. And so he let me go.
Nice.
He let me go that year, and basically the whole buzz of people turned up at Labasa airport to drop me off. It was a big thing. The first child of this family out of Labasa, and being a girl, right? Someone who was never allowed a sleepover, even at my own older siblings' places, and letting her go to university to be all by herself and to pursue further studies. I think that was my biggest achievement ever, because there was no stopping after that.
Wonderful, Kashmir, because it almost sounds like to me that you grew up in a very loving, caring family environment.
Yes.
And with some strict rules and guardrails for the
Mhm.
better.
Yes.
Whatever mom and dad knew,
Yep.
they tried their best to ensure, because that was the norm back then, right? That's
Yep.
how.
Yep.
And it almost sounds like there was a bit of favor towards the male in the family back then. And you say in the 90s, that's how traditional living in Fiji was. And, I'm aware of that. But what gets me is, you even at that younger age, you were looking for something that was beyond you, to make a change that will impact generations to come, or even your siblings that were after you, right? You wanted to make a change. Now, growing up in that very traditional environment, then tapping into Aji, a secret weapon, as you said, because a lot of times there's a lot of respect for elders. And you use that to your benefit, where Aji, of course, dad would have had to kind of respect Aji's position in the family.
Yeah.
So you move from your village to Labasa, and then from Labasa, you move to the university. Could you tell us from there, how did you end up in New Zealand? That aspect of your journey.
So basically, like how kids these days take a gap year, my gap year was waiting for my dad to let me go. While I didn't really waste that year, I taught, so I gained some experience, and then I pursued my degree in the same field. And so my first year, Ajay's second year, that's where we met. And we locked in our relationship. Back then, it was basically like, this is it. And that's something that I had to keep away from my dad, because obviously my dad trusted me to go to university, get a degree, right? And that's a huge trust. And that's a big thing for a very traditionalist and a very conservative father at that time. But my mom knew. So because his parents were in New Zealand, or in the process of moving to New Zealand, we had kind of started thinking about that, but very like at a surface level. I got my degree, and within the 3 years, my dad got to know about our relationship. He came over, spoke with Ajay, spoke with Ajay's family, and the deal was that that he was very happy with the relationship. And I was very surprised by that, because I thought he would just call it off and he'll be like, we sent you to study, not to be in a relationship, and let's get you back to Labasa. But he was very happy, and he was very, very supportive of our relationship. And he said, the deal is that the day you graduate is the day you are getting legally married. Because initially he suggested that he was ready to get us married straight away. Right. But I was like, no, I'm still studying. I want to finish my degree. And Ajay is also still studying. So on the day I graduated in 1999 was the day Ajay and I got legally married. Next day was our big engagement party at University CRC Hall. So a lot of our university friends who were graduating, they attended our engagement party. So we got married 3 weeks after, traditional marriage. And then we moved to Suva, because that's where our jobs were. And we were kind of tossing between, we've got great jobs in Fiji. Teaching at Maris Brothers was amazing. And Ajay had a really good job at the Reserve Bank of Fiji. And we were like, life is good here, right? And then the coup happened in year 2000. And that's what kind of helped us make the decision faster. So we started the process. We started the process of, applying, and it took a long time, another 2 years. And during that time, we had our first daughter, Supriti, and I continued my teaching. Ajay continued his Reserve Bank job. But yeah, the process took a long time. But at that time, you could get your permanent residence in Fiji through skilled migrant category. Right? Okay. So when we moved to New Zealand, we were already permanent residents here under the skilled migrant, because we had the points to get here. So that's what made us move. And while I was really, really sad, because I was leaving all my family behind in Fiji, I have got a lot of siblings. My mum had 12 pregnancies, and she raised 9 children, and 8 of us are around. So we leaving all those back in Fiji was a very, very hard decision.
How was your initial days, years settling in New Zealand?
Yeah, we moved to Christchurch because that's where family was. And it's always really good to move to where family is because you need that initial support. And we were very, very blessed that Ajay's parents lived in Christchurch at that time. I taught for 3 months without any pay just to get my foot in the door. And then I was offered the minimum pay that first year. And Ajay applied to 300 jobs, all rejected. But he did not waste that time. He started his CA.
Good.
Yeah, but it wasn't something that was easy for us. The reason we moved to Wellington was because the first job that got offered to Ajay from New Zealand Customs was based in Wellington. So after the 300 applications, he was finally interviewed and offered a job here, and we've actually never looked back.
It's beautiful because it just shows once again your determination, and you both as a family with a little one uprooting from a very stable environment to moving to an almost unknown Christchurch. I'm not even going to talk about the cold, Fiji to Christchurch,
Yeah.
but settling in a foreign environment as a migrant, we know the challenges there. It's adapting to the culture, settling in the different ways and tune of life. But then not having a job, and as a parent, that would have weighed very heavy on you both. 300 applications getting rejected. Now, it's no easy feat, right? But still continuing to ask, to research, to apply, and at that point, as the man of the house, I'm sure what was I almost can imagine what was going on in Jay's mind. But well done for being that support. Wellington is also as beautiful as it is. It's not an easy place to settle, and especially if this is still 2001, 2002, there wouldn't have been that many Fiji Indians there, right? Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that, and then we move to what you're doing.
Yeah. So, no, Wellington initially was really hard. I remember the first drive from the airport to our little flat. I kept thinking, why have we moved here? But we quickly settled in. Ajay had a job and we had flowing income coming through. So I started looking for jobs here and thinking that I've got a teaching degree. I should only go into teaching. I got into relief teaching, but it was proving to be quite difficult. In the sense that the process for getting, registration, teacher registration, lots of challenges around that. So Ajay said to me, you've got a teaching degree and you've got this teaching experience, but you don't have to continue teaching. Why don't you start applying elsewhere? And so I applied at Hutt City Council, and first interview, got the job. That was the end of my teaching career. So got into local government and then off to central government, and just whole, shenanigan of public sector just took its own shape, evolved, and made me the professional that I am today in terms of public service. In terms of Fiji Indians here in Wellington, I was very lucky to be introduced to Wellington Hindi School at the very beginning. So I'm talking about 2004. And so through Wellington Hindi School, where I started taking my daughter, I started meeting quite a lot of Fijian Indian and just expanded my network through that, and then through other events that we attended in Wellington. There were mandlis and there were little groups that we went to where we were introduced to other people, and we just expanded our network through that.
So now you have moved from Fiji, Bocalevu to Labasa to Suva to then Christchurch to Wellington. And you've also started to get a feel of the Fiji Indian community in Wellington. Looking at our notes, we see that you are involved quite a lot in community work. Tell us how it all started with working in the public sector and the work you do in the community.
Yes. So I guess that's my inspiration. So growing up, seeing my dad being so involved in community service, and a lot of selfless acts of kindness every now and then, it was kind of ingrained in us to be able to give back to the community and do some seva, some service out to the community from time to time. And while I was settling into my new life in Wellington, I did have that at the back of my mind that there should be a portion of my time that I should be giving back to the community. I mentioned that we were introduced to Wellington Hindi School, and my first community service actually started as a volunteer at Wellington Hindi School. So that grew from being a parent helper through to managing a few projects for Hindi School, through to relief teaching from time to time when we were shortage on teachers, to being a chairperson for Hindi School for about 5 years. And I still offer my help wherever there is a need. And also because all three of our children, so remember Supriti, my eldest one, she was born in Fiji. We had two other kids in Wellington after that, Pri and Arnav. And so getting them into Hindi School and making sure that they have some grounding in terms of our language and our culture. Although we are very blessed to have my in-laws, Ajay's parents, live with us. They moved in with us in 2006 since my second daughter was born, and they've lived with us since then. So having them at home, children being grounded in the Fiji Hindi language, the culture, and also being part of Wellington Hindi School, it was a really nice balance for us as an extended family, 3 generations living under the same roof. While Ajay and I continued doing our public sector work, I moved from Hutt City Council policy role into Ministry of Education regional role to Ministry of Education national role, to Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, and a whole lot of cross-agency projects and cross-agency work. And for both of us being able to do all of that while raising our 3 children, I think a lot of that credit goes to the support system that we had created with having mum and dad, at home, helping raise the children while we could go away traveling from work, being in late night meetings at work. But yeah, no, that's kind of our journey into where we are in Wellington. And as we grew into our leadership roles in the public sector, that back of mind thinking of giving back to the community grew at the same time. And so through Hindi School, I went off and, did a few projects here and there, and then was introduced to a lot of other networks, like Asia New Zealand Foundation. I joined their leadership network much earlier on, I think 2007, and did a whole lot of activities and projects through that, including attending an offshore forum in Singapore, doing a whole lot of presentation to organizations, bringing the learnings from there to Hindi School, and running youth workshops on Hindi language, on leadership, on mentoring, all of that. And then, there was really no stopping after that. There was from network to network to network. I just continued putting my name into all these different buckets, and there were so many opportunities, like the Fiji Day Committee, when I joined that with the a collaboration with the Fiji High Commission here, organizing huge Fiji Day for our Fijian diaspora. Just see that whole community development unfolding in front of you. And so that's, taking the learnings from the public sector, applying it to the community in a volunteer basis. I think that's the most rewarding thing that I've ever done, and something that has come very naturally, in the sense that, you've got all these things that you are doing at work that is working for the government, for the public sector, but then you've got all these volunteer organizations that survive on threads of funding, and they don't have people who can actually do that level of processes, workflows, or administration, or governance work, making sure that you are helping in some of those things. Was something that inspired me to continue doing the community work that I did.
That's wonderful, and I love it how your growth in the public sector, especially around your leadership, but also your personal brand grew as you started to network with other organizations and people, and once again that it's highlighted, as it said in the business world, that your net worth is your network, right? So you kind of networked with people and harnessed the power of knowing others to your benefit, to then start serving the community. And especially when you talk a lot about the Fiji Indian people, the Fijian people, even to a government level where you're organizing Fiji Days, etc. Now, who has been, and I know I've heard that Dad's been your biggest inspiration, but do you think someone else has played a big part to shape you into who you are today?
I would give quite a lot of credit to my parents, obviously, Dad being the sole breadwinner, the businessman, the philanthropist, and the mentor that I always had. And Mum being that emotional support every time I needed that. But I would give equal credit to my husband Ajay, who's been very gently pushing me to do things out of my comfort zone. So he would, yep, you can do this. Just put in your application. You can do that job, or you can run this business. Let's get started. So founding Jiva Advisory Service, which is my consulting business at the moment.
Yes.
A lot of work and a lot of thinking for that came from both Ajay and I. And unfortunately, I did not have my dad to run any of those ideas past, because he passed away in 2016. But the fact that he achieved so much at such young age, and he continued talking about his achievements and how hard work paid off, and how being humble and being of the mind that you should give a portion of your time to seva, and how the rewards would be returned to you. Those learnings from him, and obviously the blessings of my in-laws, and the help from Ajay, helped me found Jiva Advisory Service. The business itself is a boutique consulting business based here in Wellington. The services that Jiva Advisory offers are pretty generic. It's the work that all the work that I did in the public sector around policy, around strategy, business cases, project management, program management, all of that. They can be done from anywhere, remote or in the office, or a hybrid model. But what I want to talk about a little bit is the word Jiva. And it took me a month almost to come up with the name. I wanted to make sure that it's the right word, and a word that actually connects with me, and not just a business name, just like that. I wanted something really, really meaningful. So the word Jiva actually means life, that you are breathing life into something. That's the whole purpose and the whole value system of Jiva Advisory Service is to breathe life into the work that we are providing, breathe life into the project plan, into the program plan, into a business case, into a strategy that I'm writing, into a policy that I'm writing. It has to be meaningful work, and it has to be practical and very, very pragmatic.
Brilliant. And Kashmir, if someone is interested in getting advisory or consulting services through Jiva, how can they contact you?
It's very easy. You can just hop onto www.jiva.co.nz. It's Jiva. So there's a website that people can hop onto. Just Google Jiva. We are on LinkedIn and we have a website.
That's wonderful to hear just how Jiva came about and actually the deep meaning behind your brand. And Kashmir, you also do quite a lot of community work, as I have mentioned earlier, and you do work for Ekta New Zealand, right? Could you tell us a little bit about your involvement in that?
So Ekta New Zealand is a local charity in Wellington, and I think it's the only ethnic charity that we have here. It's one of those organizations that cuts across language, nationality, race, all of those things, right? So it's not faith-based. It has got the vision of sewa, so selfless service to human. The signature projects of Ekta include food distribution. So we go around rescuing food and collect food from organizations that rescue food like Kaibosh, and then we deliver that or we distribute that to the community in need. So we've got 4 or 5 distribution centers across Wellington. So that's the signature project of Ekta, and we do that rain, hail or shine. We've done that throughout COVID as well. Ekta started in 2017, so we will be 10 years next year. So we've been delivering these services for quite some time now. Apart from food security, we also do empowerment, community empowerment. We do capability building of communities, the most vulnerable communities like the refugees, the migrants, the homeless people on the street, those who are struggling with life, So we organize things like how to vote, how, Finance 101, how to write a will. So very basic things. The other things that Ekta does is we organize a lot of events, and most of our events are focused on social cohesion. And as you know, social cohesion is so important right now. So Ekta focuses a lot of its time on building social cohesion and making sure that New Zealand becomes a more inclusive country for everyone to live in. So that's what Ekta is. My role in Ekta is a volunteer. I sit on the executive committee, and I would like to encourage more people to come and join Ekta because it is very rewarding, especially when you stand out on the street and distribute food. That's the sense of humbleness that you feel at that time is beyond measure.
Kashmir, you mentioned about you encourage people to join Ekta. How can they do that?
Ekta is very easy to find on the website. Google us or find us on Facebook. So the website is www.ekta.nz. It's very
EKTA, right?
EKTA, and Ekta is the word for oneness, and that's unity and oneness, and it's really what drives all the work that we do. We do not discriminate. We do not ask any questions as to why people are standing in the queue.
And this is primarily for the people in the Wellington area?
We are primarily providing our services in Wellington city, but we do have some outreach services that goes out to Lawahad and to Porirua. But yeah, the core services are within Wellington at the moment.
Brilliant. Now, Kashmir, as we draw towards the close of the podcast, you started off from this young girl in Bocalevu, Fiji, who wanted to literally break the glass ceiling, who wanted to make life better for herself, but for those following her, right? For those that were to come after her. Do you think you have done that?
Yes, I'm very confident that I have broken the glass ceiling. At the time when it was very challenging and very difficult to get out of Labasa. So yes, I've done that, and I can see that has had a positive impact on my younger sister, my nieces, some other extended family who had girls who had aspirations to get out of Labasa and study. The glass ceiling of not being able to find your own partner. That's another thing that I broke. So I was bold enough to say yes to Ajay, and then bold enough to share that with my parents and make sure that, I do get married to the same person. And these are big things. In our family, I was the first one to pursue a degree. I was the first one to find my own partner. And I think those two are really big things at that time. The life of girls have become much more, I would say, not easier, but there's a lot more flexibility. And I can see that. I think I shared a diagram with you about women lineage in my family. I have conceptually tried to explain how my great-grandmother was not able to do certain things. And when it came to me, I managed to do a lot of those things. And then my daughters now are able to do much more because I was able to break some of those boundaries and those barriers and make way. So I can see, I am the witness to all of those as I see my daughters growing to these very, very independent, strong women who are able to have a great conversation on topics that used to be taboo topics in our time. And it's really important that we are able to provide that empowerment through the lives that we live so that our younger generations are able to achieve what we could not achieve. And I don't regret doing that. I have become a very independent and strong-minded person, and I would say that saying about I am because we are. It takes a village. It took my mom and dad to let me go. It took the whole village to let me go. They all came to Labasa to drop me off. And the support system that we had, both Ajay and I had, from the very beginning to where we are now in New Zealand. I think it's the community that I was part of. Everything is helped.
Wonderful. And what's your advice to the people starting out?
People starting out, I would say be bold. Don't overthink. If you have a gut feeling of something that you are passionate about, that you want to achieve, that you are aspiring to become, just go off and do it. You might need some secret weapons, like I had my Aji, the secret weapon, but find your way around some of the obstacles that you might be facing. Those are very temporary. You can achieve everything that you have dreamt of, and you can aspire to be anything you want.
That's wonderful. That's very wise. To create a better world or to create a better future, what is one small thing even people can do like today?
As you can see in my background, I'm very much into plants, and I tell people if you want to do something today, it's a very, very visionary thing to plant a tree. And planting a tree is not about today, right? You will feel good about putting something into the soil, getting your hands dirty. You'll feel good about that, and you'll probably watch it grow for a little while. But that tree is going to provide shade for generations to come. And you have done something not just for yourself, you've done something for generations and generations after you. I am a nature enthusiast, and I do spend time in the mountains from time to time. When I walk across some of the big trees, I thank whoever planted them.
That's wonderful. That is so profound. Love the mindset of giving back. Even planting a tree today, it's for the generations to come. Kashmir, thank you so much for your time. We have had an incredible time just listening to your story, to your journey, to how things started, in a very, very humble way to where you are today. Thank you for taking out your time to share with us. But we won't just let you go like this. We want to have a rapid fire round. So quick answers, one word or whatever comes to mind, right? So
Okay.
so here we go. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Coffee. Nice. What's Kashmir's favorite dish?
Daruka.
Ooh,
Curry.
ruka. Oh,
Yep, my favorite curry.
beautiful. Kashmir's favorite movie?
Sholay.
Sholay. Wow,
I
you
can watch
drifted
it 100 more times.
100 more times. Right. So gulab jamun or samosa?
Gulab jamun, always.
All right. And to wrap it up, very quickly, your last word for our audience.
Thank you for listening to the journey that I have just shared. I'm sure that you all have similar journeys. Every single person has a story. Share your story, share it with Pritesh, better version of you, or with anyone else. But every story has a lesson that people can learn from. So thank you for watching, and thank you, Pritesh, and better version of you.
Thank you, Kashmir. It has truly been an honor to host you and to hear about your story. To our viewers, thank you once again for tuning in. I'm sure you will enjoy this episode of the 3R Stories podcast. Please do like, share, and subscribe. Keep well, and we will see you in the next episode. See ya.